we find Mara walking along a lakefront.
This is a place that she knows and recognizes, but chooses to avoid quite a bit. She had a thing with her Porsche in the shop, and so is begrudgingly walking to meet Aubrey in Haglin Hill. And usually this path is really gorgeous. It brings in tourists and things like that. It's, a famous little trail. But this is a place that she will choose to avoid if she can, and is surprised at the overwhelming pit in her stomach and negative emotions and fear and anxiety that she doesn't usually feel very often anymore kind of overflow. And she kind of has to take a minute and stop her head from spinning and her hands from getting tingly and her nervous energy kind of taking over, because that's something that she never was suspect to. She's not an anxious person. So this catches her off guard. So she tries to kind of breathe and get in touch. She's feeling the cool leather on her jacket. She's shuffling around in her boots as they have gotten admittedly a bit dirty walking, but she doesn't totally mind that. But it's feeling the breeze on her cheek, hearing the sounds, and looking over at the lake that she cannot escape this memory as it floods back to her.
What is this memory that that's giving her this anxiety?
Yes.
So uncharacteristic.
I know. Well, so there was one day, it was a kind of winter into spring March day, her freshman year of high school. And she's at this new school, a private school that was picked out by her mother. And she no longer is going to school with most of her friends, and gets picked up by their driver, Skylar, to take her home back to Cliffside. The school is in Greencliff. It's, of course, the best school in town. It was very easy for Mara to fit in and do well at school, as she's so smart. But the social thing is coming along. There are different kinds of friends than she had before. They're more kind of like her mother than like her, but that's not totally a bad thing. And so she is feeling a little strange and is a little bit missing the kind of life that she had before that was a lot more fun and carefree, and the friends that she felt like she could really relax with. So she is taking a walk. The school day is done. Skylar usually picks her up right out front. He's not there right away, so she decides that she's going to take a little stroll and we'll just be back, and knows that he'll find her and that can be worked out. So she starts walking from Greencliff towards this lake trail on her own, and is kind of taken in by the peace that she feels being near the water, and sort of feels like all of the doubts that she had about her new friends and if she's in the right place at school kind of go wash away in this place, as she feels a little bit more grounded and more powerful. And that's a feeling that is new to her, but it's not unwelcome.
As she's feeling this power, as she's feeling this peace, the wind picks up and blows her hair back from the water as she's looking out at it, and she hears a footstep in the leaves and the branches behind her. And I sort of turn around, and it's this figure that's not human. Not human. She's tall. Her skin is olive brown. Her hair is black and curly. It's pulled up into two sort of meatball-style buns at the side and back of her head. And in her eyes, there is fire. That's the thing that catches your attention first, is the fire in her eyes, the fury in her eyes, as she looks down on you, standing a full 7 feet tall. As your eyes travel down, you see that she is wearing a breastplate, pounded out of silver or some silvery metal. It gleams and reflects a fearful face back at Mara. Your gaze continues to travel down, and she holds in her right hand a bladed whip. With her left, she points to Mara and says, "This punishment is for you, but die knowing that you did not earn it." And she draws back her right hand to send this whip flying towards Mara. And in a moment of frozen, trying to do anything to defend herself, she just yells out, "Get back!"
And the sound is like knives. And she kind of stumbles after she said this and feels like all of her energy is depleted and doesn't even recognize her own voice. It was a growl. It was monster-like that came out of her purely on instinct, and yet it sends this thing back, and it listens to her.
The camera stays in one place, and Mara runs off along the trail, back towards where she was supposed to meet Skylar, and pulls back in as Skylar delivers Mara to her home.
The entire time, Skylar and the other staff that work for her mother don't really speak to Mara very much. But even she's trying so hard to hide the shakenness because this thing went as quickly as it came. And she saw the fire gleam even harder as the thing knew that it was against its own will leaving her alone. And I think the part of the memory that sticks out to her the most now, and so much so that she replays it over and over and over again in the car ride back to her home, is the moment where this thing looked at her after she had told it to get away from her. And the flame grew to the point where she thought this thing was going to come back and actually kill her and finish the job. But then it looked at her again and decided not to, and vanished as quickly as it came. And that's what haunts her, is the choice. What would have happened if that thing tried to attack her again? Would she have killed it? Because it was a vicious thing that came out of her that was new and scary. Or would Mara have been dead? And it was just this kind of choice that thing made, that it's almost like I had beaten her and she knew that, and that it was almost like this fear or this confirmation that something was happening and I wasn't going to know what it was.
So Mara is at her home. It is a sprawling mansion, richly appointed.
Yes.
In every detail. Plush carpets, dark woods on the walls, fine art, some of it hundreds of years old, decorating this home.
And it's not quite a Gothic mansion, but it is by no means warm. It's just stylized, it's chic, it is eternally in fashion.
Unusually, your mother comes to find you. Dearest, I was concerned. Skylar said you were not where you were meant to be.
Yes, Mother, I was taking a walk, but I made it back to him just fine. He knew where to find me. She's like avoiding eye contact.
Melody, I always know when you try to deceive me.
She grimaces at the use of her full name. Okay. Yeah, if we could, if you have time, there was something that happened that I think maybe I should talk to you about.
She sits down, keeping her back upright as she perches. She cocks her head to the side and looks at Mara with the closest thing that sympathy Mara has seen. Tell me, dear.
Actually, Mother, I don't mean to be presumptuous, and I know it's not a place that I'm usually able to visit. I'd be a little worried about maybe some of the staff overhearing. Could we speak in your office?
She stands up and walks towards the elevator.
This is insane. She's never been at... She's never... there was something... Mara knows that this is something different. There's just this innate feeling. She doesn't know what. But this is a conversation that reminds her a bit of the one that they had about Aubrey. And in that conversation, it was one that her mother wanted to be private. And so she's hoping that this can be handled the best way, because at this point she's thinking she has done something horribly wrong somehow. And so is remembering that conversation, and that was maybe one of the other 2 times in her life that she's gotten to go in her mother's office.
Your mother, Kat, leads you down the long hallway towards her office. Portraits of the rest of your family lining the walls, the thick carpets eating the sound of every footstep so that you walk in silence to this place. She opens the door to her office. She takes the seat behind her desk where everything is arranged perfectly, everything in its place, and she gestures to the seat across from the desk, the one that sits a little bit lower than hers, the one that sits with its back to the door, so you always feel a little uneasy, and sits with its back also to the mantle and the fireplace that are set in the same wall as the door, where there are art pieces, where there is a net that is hung with bits of abalone shell and lead weights. This is an old piece. She pours herself a glass of water and leans back in her chair waiting for Mara to speak.
I don't really know where to start, and I think this might have something to do with what you said about the world being a bit larger than I may have been conditioned to learn at the schools here in town. I was walking, and only because it wasn't just a period of adjustment at school and getting used to everyone. My grades are perfect, I promise.
She just raises an eyebrow.
Yeah. It's not about that, and actually the girls at school really like me, so it's not an issue there. I just kind of was drawn to the lake a little bit. I haven't felt that before, but I just felt this like overwhelming, like I was really hungry for it. And so I walked over there, and actually all of the kind of nervousness I was feeling went away. But then this, she kind of hesitates, woman was behind me, and at first I thought it was fine. As you've said, finding another woman out in the world is safer than finding a man when you're in trouble, but she was looking at me, and it was almost like there was fire instead of a pupil in her eyes, like instead of having blue eyes, like...
Your mother sits up and leans forward. Describe her. Spare no detail.
She had a darker complexion, dark hair. She was wearing like this silver, almost like a medieval sort of thing on her chest, and she was so tall, like the tallest person I've ever seen, let alone tallest woman I've seen. And she said something to me that was really strange.
Go on.
Something about this punishment is not for you, but that I would die knowing that I didn't do anything wrong. I don't really remember. And then she had this like weapon, and she was gonna hurt me, and then I stopped.
Describe the weapon.
It was almost like if a whip had blades on it.
Megara found you. Megara found you, and you lived.
Is that in like another aunt or something that we don't talk to anymore?
Daughter, this is incredible.
I was quite scared actually, so I don't know if it was... I mean, that was all terrifying, but Mother, the worst part was that I told her to stop and she listened to me.
Well, of course she did.
What do you mean?
In this world, few people have a choice. The number gets smaller, daughter, when they hear our voice. The world is wide and darker than you know. The world is wide, but you can shape it as you go. So, daughter, open up your mouth and let me hear you sing. If you are saying
you saying that this is something that I've always had with me and you didn't tell me about? Because it felt like there was like this monster and it was exciting, but I also felt guilty. But like it was this thing where I was scared and then suddenly she was scared of me, and that was the worst feeling, Mother. But it felt good, and I don't know what to do with that.
There were more of us then, but even so, it was our way that we each had to discover our powers. We each had to learn how to control them, to control others, and to not be eaten by our own hunger.
Does this have anything to do with why we don't really see family much? Or why you speak so highly of all your sisters, yet I've never known them, let alone she falters before trying to bring up her father.
This is a joyous day, and I would give you a boon. Any question. Just one, I will answer.
She's kind of goes through her mind as she knows that her mother recognized this creature and she could ask about that. She could ask about what this hunger was and learning more about it, but she feels that that would not be a good way to spend this incredible opportunity, because this is a level of pride that she's seen in glimpses from her mother before, but she's gotten used to now that Mara has aced every class, wins everything she tries to do. So she settles and looks her mother in the eye. Who is my father?
When the world was younger, when stories were new, when the seas were bluer, when myths were true, there was a man who strode into the sea. The first man who ever resisted me. Oh, his eyes were blue and his smile was warm, and he made my heart beat and my stomach turn like a storm. Skimming across the waves like a fish. Oh, and I knew if I could get my wish, we'd be together, sailing over the waves, sailing over the waves. Brought him home to meet my sisters, and it caused a stir. Your Aunt Fee stood by me and defended my world. I knew it would cause trouble, that it would cause a ruckus, but I didn't care, and Fee and I struck out across the ocean with my husband Glaucus. Over the waves, over the waves, over the waves. The years between few of them had him. He went off to find glory, or something I've never understood. Then he came back, and so did the storm, and then you were born. Across the waves from our family's home. She stands up, walks across her office, picks up the net from on the wall, hands it to Mara. This and you are all I have of him now.
Mother, will you promise me that you won't leave me alone to figure out what all of this means?
There are aspects which you must discover for yourself. If I had been told, I would not have believed. But, and she smiles at you with this intense grin that looks like a shark. Hear me, daughter. Be they god or mortal, anyone who dares harm my little girl will drown in their own tears.
And with that, the memory, she's out of it. She's back, looking at the lake, takes a deep breath, and keeps on walking.
Mara Vertere was played by Lauren Drake. Find her on socials at LaLaDrake. All the music for this episode was created live in the room by our incredible accompanist, Noah Samuels. Find him on Instagram at Samuels_Noah. And I'm Helix. You can find me and the cast of our show on our Discord. You can reach us on our socials at RPG Major on Instagram and Blue Sky. To support what we do, go to patreon.com/RPGMajor. We'll see you next time.